Hey everyone, welcome back to this portfolio project series. My name is Juan Tan. I'm going to be guiding you in this series on a real world application that I'm going to be building. I'm going to take you through all the steps: ideation, design, development. We're going to deploy the application, and all along the way I'm going to share all sorts of tips that I have on how junior developers and other front-end developers out there can level up their skills, learning a lot of the soft skills that I think get overlooked often throughout school. If you're going the academic route to get a bachelor's degree in computer information systems, computer science, anything like that, or if you go through developer boot camps, I feel like a lot of these things get glossed over, especially things in the design process. So I'm going to be sharing as much of that information as I can with you. We're going to be going through design thinking, ideation, different ways that we can use AI to help supercharge some of those skills for us. And one of the most important things that I think is out there for the developer is how to write great user stories. I think it's a superpower for developers, and if you can learn how to write great user stories, deciding what to build becomes a lot easier. So I'm going to be sharing that all with you. And let's see. Really quick, if you're new here, my name is Juan Tan. I'm a lead software engineer at IBM. I have over 10 plus years experience building front-end applications, working with JavaScript, HTML, as well as working as part of the design team in a lot of ways. I'm not a traditional designer by any means, but I have been dubbed an honorary designer by a lot of the designers I work with. Just taking what I understand about the front end and applying that in a design sense. I think it's such a valuable space to be in. And if you're a front end developer that's trying to level up your skills, trying to get that promotion to senior, to lead, I think it's an absolute cheat code that you can add to your toolbox if you're able to be a part of the design process, if you're able to help drive design for your team. I think front-end developers are particularly set up to do well in this space because we have a great understanding of the applications that we're building, the architecture of the application, a lot of the funky things that happen in HTML and CSS. And those are very, very valuable insights into design that can help lead the design, can help the designs go in a certain direction. So I'll be sharing a lot of that with you in this series. And today, specifically, we're going to be looking at how do we go into a project kickoff. So if you've been with us the past couple days, you'll know that we did a design thinking workshop. That's part 1 and part 2. I'll have the link in the description so you can click that and follow along if you're not caught up. In those workshops, we went through taking our problem statement and breaking that down into who the users are, getting a great understanding of those users through user empathy mapping, coming up with great how might we questions, which guided our ideation session. And then we did quite a bit of ideation to come up with all sorts of ideas that we could use to solve some of those problems and issues that those users are facing. We went through affinity mapping, which takes all of our ideas, clusters them together into kind of themes and potential features. And then finally, we did a little bit of prioritization to see which of those are the most valuable to the user, could deliver the most value, and which of those maybe are or are not readily available for us to work on. Feasible is the word I was looking for there. So definitely check those out if you haven't already. And step 1 is that design thinking workshop. I think design thinking is the center and the true start of any new project. You take your idea, you go through the design thinking, and the output should be an MVP statement. So we were able to come up with an MVP statement, and now we're going to do our project kickoff. So if the output of the design thinking workshop is the MVP statement, then the output of our project kickoff should be a prioritized backlog of user stories. So this is how we take, we think we know now what we need to build, and in our planning project kickoff, we're going to take that MVP statement. We're going to figure out what exactly we're going to build, which features are worth building, technical considerations that we need to consider as we go into it, and spend the majority of that time writing the stories. And our user stories are the lifeblood of any project. once you have your user stories, you have your to-do list, you have what you're going to build. And if you have great user stories and they're prioritized, then it's always obvious what you should be building next, where you should be spending your time. And you can actually start to plan ahead and see the timeline of your project. And we can start to get a good idea of where we're headed and how we're going to get there. So with no more further ado here, let's jump into it. I'll screen share really quick. Let's go take a look at the chat. Nobody's in there yet. Great. So let's go to the screen share and transition. All right. So why do we need a project kickoff? Well, many software projects fail due to poor requirements gathering. Okay, so most projects that fail is just because you didn't spend enough time thinking about what it is that I'm going to build, why I'm building it, who I'm building it for. You didn't take the time to write those user stories or to understand all of the requirements of your stakeholders, of any of the technical considerations, and some of the risks, which is something we'll talk about today. I don't have a risk analysis as part of this specifically because it doesn't quite fit this project, but I will touch on it a bit later. Projects with formal kickoffs are more likely to deliver on time. So if you go through this kickoff process, you get everybody on the same board. It helps everyone get a clear idea of where we're going. I think something that I've noticed in the projects I've worked on is you think you know what everybody is going to be heading towards, but a lot of times people have different ideas of exactly where they're headed. And if you actually spend some time talking it out, you realize, oh, wow, I wasn't thinking about it that way, or that's not how I envisioned the feature. So if you can have those conversations before you start development, get clarity and alignment from everyone on the team, then you can save a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of wasted story points later on in the process. Effective kickoffs align teams and stakeholders. They help set expectations and create a shared understanding, kind of what I was just touching on. And finally, proper planning prevents costly mistakes, or something I always learned in college and kind of say to this day is the 6 Ps. Proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. Okay, so you got to prepare. Putting your best step forward in the beginning is going to save you a lot of heartache later on. The road so far. So a quick recap of where we've gone. So I think I told you all already that we have gone through our design thinking workshop. So let me just zoom out here on Mural. If you're not familiar with Mural, it's a great software for collaboration. You can share these murals, and it's essentially just a giant whiteboard. And back when I first started doing design thinking workshops, we did everything in person, in the room, which was really awesome. It's great to work with people and to collaborate and to just open up your mind to big ideas. And we just use sticky notes and we put them on our whiteboard. But during the pandemic, when that began in 2020, we had to kind of pivot and start learning how to deliver these things remotely with people all over the world. And Mural definitely was a super valuable tool in that time. You can see here, kind of have their sticky notes on here. So this really becomes just a huge whiteboard where you can scribble your thoughts, you can brainstorm, ideate, and there's a lot of really cool templates in here, and sticky notes, connectors, images, icons. It just makes it really quick with the process. So as we go, I'll be using Mural, and I'll be sharing a lot of the tools and techniques that I've learned over the time. I'm by no means a master, but it's a really well-designed tool. It's easy to use and easy to learn. So I definitely recommend picking it up for your own projects. So look in here, this was the design thinking workshop we went through. We started with user mapping and user empathy mapping, where we broke down the 3 different user types that are going to be users of this web application, this web portfolio. And so starting with it, let's start with the problem statement. It was, how might we help software developers effectively showcase their skills, thought process, and ideas to potential employers, clients, and the developer community in a way that demonstrates both technical expertise and problem-solving capabilities? So this was kind of the problem statement to this portfolio that we're going to build for ourselves. The 3 different user personas I came up with was Pamela, a potential employer or client. This is someone who's coming to your portfolio site to see what it is that you built before, see what skills you have, see your experience, and just see what it is that you're showcasing to those users. The next user is Juan, that's me, Juan Tan, I should say, a software developer that wants to share their portfolio. So this could be you as well. If you're following along, you want to build your own portfolio, this would be us. And then Claude is a junior software developer that wants to grow into a senior front-end developer. So this is someone who may be coming to the site to read my blog, to see some videos that I've shared, just to learn how to level up their skills. So these are the 3 user personas that I've found that are going to be a part of this web application, interacting with it in some way or another. It's very important to know your users first so that you can put yourself in their shoes, and you can make sure that as you're brainstorming ideas and features, you're coming at it from a perspective. So during this empathy mapping, we captured some of the situations and context that this user might be showing up with, some of their goals and motivations, and their fears and frustrations. So really helping us to ground ourselves in our users. Then we dove into the how might we questions. This is where we actually come up with a ton of questions that just help us to ideate. So the idea with how might we questions is to just generate as many questions that are thought-provoking that can help steer the conversation. So not coming up with ideas yet, just good questions like, how might we help developers tell compelling stories about their technical decisions? Or how might we demonstrate skills when code can't be shared due to NDAs? So it helps us to think outside of the box, which in going into the next section, we did rapid ideation. This is where we came up with all sorts of ideas on how we can answer some of these questions. I grouped a few of the how might we questions together here, and I actually used Claude, which is a generative AI tool that I've been using a lot of recently to help ideate, help be my collaboration partner throughout this workshop, which is really cool. So if you haven't checked that out, hop back into that video and watch that part of the workshop. I think it's really cool to just showcase how when you're stuck creatively, AI can kind of help get you out. Okay, the next thing that we worked on was affinity diagramming. In this portion of the workshop, we took all of the great ideas that we had, we grouped them together into kind of similar themes and patterns, and then I put some summaries of kind of what I think these clusters were focused on. From there, we went into a feature prioritization grid where we kind of mapped everything dependent on the value that it can provide to the user, as well as the feasibility or complexity of that feature. So how difficult would this be to implement? So the more to the right it is, the more difficult. The higher up it is, the more valuable it is to the user. And when you do this, then it becomes very clear to start to see like where it is that we should be spending our most time. Like what are the most valuable things to the users that we've laid out? What's going to be the hardest to accomplish? If we have 3 things that are on the hard side, we probably can't take all of them on in one MVP. Doesn't mean we'll never touch it. It just means that we'll prioritize one thing over the other. And the goal of our first project here is to get it out as quickly as possible so that we can start testing our assumptions. Because again, we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. That's the most important thing to remember in design thinking, is that you are not your user, and you can do your best to make assumptions, because of course we have to at some point, but the most valuable thing you can do is get something built as quickly as possible, get into the hands of your users, and start to see how are they actually using it. That will guide great software development. And finally, from there, we were able to come up with our MVP statement. And we'll come back to this. So this is the one that Claude helped me demonstrate, or helped me to create. And then after the workshop, I spent some time myself kind of going through it and trying to reword it in a way that I thought made the most sense to me. All right, so let's get back into this. So that's where we have been. And really quick, some of the objectives of the kickoff. The main objective is to come out with a prioritized backlog of user stories so that I can actually start building the application. And who is Wonton? That's me. Of course, I've already shared this at the beginning of the stream, but in case you missed it, I'm a lead software engineer at IBM. I have over 10 years experience crafting UI, UX for all sorts of applications, from really small businesses all the way up to enterprise and Fortune 500 companies. So a lot of experience in that time, working primarily in React and JavaScript. HTML and CSS are two of my strongest skill sets and languages that I like to use on a day-to-day basis. And I also have quite a bit of experience leading design thinking workshops and design activities and the agile process for my team. I currently work as a lead, so I have a squad of about 8 developers and quite a few designers and architects that work with us. So I have a lot of experience doing collaboration on enterprise teams, and I want to share that with a lot of you who maybe are out there and you're really wanting to become that next senior developer, but you're lacking some of this experience. So hopefully I can pass some of that on to you. All right, so the first activity in our project kickoff is stakeholder alignment. We won't spend too much time here because I am pretty much the only stakeholder in this case, but in a real world project where most of you will be working, you're gonna have either your boss, your managers, the CEO of your company, the director of engineering, whoever it might be, somebody who is owning the project. If you are working for a design firm or something, you might have clients. They're coming to you to build an application. Or maybe you're just a developer that's working solo and you have your own client that you're working with, and that's your stakeholder. So those people all have stake in the application. They come with an understanding. They come with requirements and budgets and all sorts of things that will impact what it is that we can actually build. Given all the resources in the world, you could build anything, but nobody has all the resources in the world. At least most people don't. So we have to kind of live within the constraints. So stakeholder alignment is where we can identify who the stakeholders are. We can establish our success criteria so that we know what it is we want to build and what we're hoping to accomplish. And finally, we can define any constraints. And I think that's the key there, is defining the constraints. And constraints kind of the word constraint sounds like it has a negative connotation, but I think constraints are so valuable in software development and product design in general, because the more you constrain something, the more we're forced to think outside the box, if you will, on how we can kind of tailor those constraints to work for us and not against us. So super valuable to define our constraints. After stakeholder alignment, we'll go through some user journey mapping. The idea here is to get an end-to-end user flow built out, and you don't need to get too granular here. We'll go through it together, and I'll show how we can use Mural to just come up with a quick flow to understand who our different users are and how they're interacting with the application. And we want to be as general as we can because we don't want to pigeonhole our solution into our user flow. We just want it to be as general as possible. The user lands on this page, they interact with our skill timeline, and now they're gonna contact us in some way, right? Just laying out those main steps that the user would take. We're gonna highlight the critical touch points, and then we'll also try to identify any pain points and opportunities that we can highlight before we get into story writing, which of course is the next activity. So story writing, this is where we'll break down our epics, our features. Epics are collections of stories that kind of get grouped together to be like one cohesive piece of functionality from beginning to end. I'll go through a quick breakdown of what makes good user stories and bad user stories, and then we will also talk about acceptance criteria, and I'll give you a framework for writing great acceptance criteria. Once you write your stories, you got to have acceptance criteria for each story so that it's clear to everyone that's working on the project what the definition of done is for this specific user story. After story writing, we'll go into story refinement. At this point, we're going to do sizes for our stories, story pointing, if you will. So t-shirt sizing or story points here in parentheses. So this is kind of up to interpretation. Some projects like to use extra small, medium, large, extra large. I've always been particular to the Fibonacci sequence. So that's 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 20, 21. These are all just common patterns. There's nothing special about them. It's just ways that we've come up with to define how complex something is. And we'll dive more into that a little bit later. During this time, we also add any technical requirements and dependencies. So this is a great opportunity to consider any technical constraints that we might have, or technical considerations that we want to make sure that we are considering throughout the development process. And finally, after we do all of that, we can do some prioritization. In this point, so I have the Fibonacci sequence here, probably should have put on the last slide, but at this point, we're going to take all of our stories and we're going to prioritize them, at least at a feature level, to know what is the most important feature that we can build first, what has to come first. So we've been talking about user stories, but there are also tasks and chores. Those are the things that have to get done in order to complete a feature, but they aren't necessarily a user step, right? So a user story might be Claude, a junior developer, lands on a blog and reads a blog post. That's very focused on the user. A chore would be, I need to set up a Jenkins pipeline so that the app will build continuously. I need to set up routing for my React application so that we can create routes in future development efforts. So chores are things that need to be done but don't give direct value to the user, but they have to get done. And then user stories are some specific thing a user can do using our application, our product. During this time, we'll also take a look at release planning and do a little bit of timeline overview generally based on the user story points, what we think we can accomplish in what sort of time frame. And so we'll dive into that. All right, and finally, next steps. Once we've completed this project planning, the next steps after the project kickoff are defining what immediate actions need to be taken. So, what's that first thing that we can do, that first line of code? Now it's finally time to get to our hello world. You want to lay out the team responsibilities. So, of course, I'm just a one-man team, so that'll be easy for me. But in my regular day-to-day work, we have team members. Every team's different. Different number of junior developers and senior developers. Some people are designers, some people are front-end centric and back-end centric, some people are DevOps engineers, while others are testing engineers. So really understanding who's responsible for what is everyone's main skill sets that they can work in, and kind of defining how we'll all work together over the coming sprints. And then finally, at this point, you'd want to come up with your upcoming milestones, just kind of some key points that you're trying to get to stay on track, and lay those out for the future. Of course, in software development, everything's in flux. I don't believe that software can be time-bound perfectly. I think it can only be complexity-bound, and I think as you develop, you're just going to keep learning more and more about what it is you're trying to build. Highly doubt I'll be able to come up with all the user stories that I'll end up working on, but throughout the time of building, we'll keep adding to that, and milestones are just a good way to know if we're taking longer than we expected, if we're going faster than we expected, and that can help manage expectations and manage timelines, and to have difficult conversations as soon as possible so that we can pivot. All right, and without further ado, we'll jump into today's agenda. So, a couple things laid out here. We're going to go through a review of the MVP statement. We're going to do a very quick stakeholder alignment. From there, we're going to go into the user journey mapping. This is where we're really going to break down the journeys we expect our users to go on. From there, we should be able to do a little bit of story writing, story refinement. We'll finish off with some prioritization, and then we can go into some of our next steps. Okay, so starting with our MVP statement. So this is the MVP statement after I did some fiddling with what Claude was able to come up with. So I'll just read this aloud. If we build an open source portfolio site that combines technical excellence, interactive project storytelling, and efficient content creation, then we can help a developer showcase their abilities, document their journey, and connect with opportunities. Unlike traditional portfolios, it serves as both a demonstration of technical skills through its architecture and a comprehensive storytelling platform that makes ongoing documentation a natural part of the development process. So this is the MVP statement that I came up with. I think it captures what we're trying to build. It captures how we're trying to build it in the sense of like what are the key aspects that we want to be woven into all of the features that we build. The only thing that I would like to work on here, and I'll be doing this and share my thoughts later on, is how can I put some numbers to this? How can I find some data and quantify it in a way that I can say this is what we're trying to accomplish, and I'll know that we've arrived if X, Y, and Z has occurred, or if we can see XYZ numbers, or we can follow along with the user and see them take X action. So I'll be thinking about that over the next few days, and in a future stream, I'll be sharing that with you all. Okay, and now let's jump into stakeholder alignment. So in stakeholder alignment, the goal is to get alignment with all your stakeholders. So who are the stakeholders on this project? Well, in this case, main stakeholder is me, the software developer. Okay. Make this a little bigger. So as a software developer, I'm the key stakeholder. It's my portfolio, and I'm going to be the one who's paying the bills for hosting and for any AWS services that we may be using. If we were on a normal project, I'd probably have like a client who would be a stakeholder. I could have, my company. If I'm working on a project for IBM, then IBM is a stakeholder in it. They obviously care that the project's successful. So those would be key people to lay out. In this case, just software developer. Me, I'll put me/you. So we are the stakeholders. What else? I think our viewers are stakeholders, because you all want to gain some understanding of the design process. So I think we can live with that. Some technical considerations that I would like to think about as a stakeholder. Let's put some requirements in here. Requirements and technical considerations. And there's no right or wrong answers here. I really would just like to just write stickies as fast as I can. So let's see here. Some of the requirements that I've defined. So I really want to use AWS services. I have an AWS cloud development certification, so I think it'd be a great value to any employers or potential clients that are trying to hire me for services to see that I built this in AWS, that I use AWS services, that I have familiarity with that, and I can showcase that in some way on my portfolio. What else? We definitely want to use a CI/CD pipeline. This is going to make continuous development very easy because I'll just be able to commit my code, push it to master, and that'll kick off a build right away, and then that can get deployed immediately. I won't have to be doing any like FTP and dragging and dropping my code and manually building it, anything like that. I'll just run the pipeline, and I only have to respond if the pipeline fails for any reason. What else? Should use CI/CD pipeline. We need to keep recurring costs as low as possible. So, since I won't be generating much income from this site, at least not off the bat, got to keep the costs low as possible, but with the efficiency high. Keep the site as performant as possible. I think those go hand in hand together, so let's just draw a little arrow. Are there any other requirements and technical considerations? You know, I want to get a little bit of help from my man Claude here. So if we go all projects, portfolio application, we'll see if we can get some help here. And I'll increase this so we can all read. Let's see what Claude does here. It's actually really good. This actually came up with a ton of great ideas. Thank you, Claude. So let's see here. Some of the main business requirements: must demonstrate technical expertise effectively to potential employers. True. Should support content creation efficiency for long-term sustainability. I really like that. Must protect confidential NDA project information while showcasing skills. I think this is a key one here. Wasn't even thinking about it, but definitely. So I'm gonna just copy paste these in really quick. I'd like to turn these into stickies really quick, but I guess I'll just have to do that. Must be maintainable by a single developer. I actually really like that one. I think that's a key point when we're working on this as a solo developer. We don't have the benefit of having a full team. So those are some of our business requirements. I really like those. Some of the technical considerations were performance metrics, architectural requirements, and content management. So we think we could do these into their own stickies. All right, and later on I'll come through these and just maybe remove any things that don't make sense specifically. And I'm actually going to duplicate this over here. I'm going to keep technical considerations separate from our requirements. All right. And then down here, some constraints. I did like this, the infrastructure. Yeah, these are some good constraints. And content. Again, talking about the NDA restrictions, I think that's key. Oops. Bold that. Okay, we'll get rid of this sticky. Yeah, pretty good there. So I think this are good things that we can continue to look back. So remember, this is all about alignment in this stakeholder alignment exercise. So the point is, now we have these things to consider. We can come back here often. We can come back here often to make sure that we are thinking and building within the constraints, and not just during the design workshop or during our project kickoff, but down the road when we're 2, 3, 4 sprints in and we're building stories. We should come back here. We should check what were our constraints. Oh yeah, I didn't think about the NDAs. I should actually start thinking about that. So as we're diving deeper into designing and building the actual features, we can make sure that we're on top of these kinds of things. I think my audio's okay. Let me just double check. All right, that should be a little bit better. All right, moving on. So I think that takes care of our stakeholder alignment. I'm pretty happy with that, and I will be checking back here often. So next up is user journey mapping. So for user journey mapping, the idea here is that we're going to lay out the journey of our user as they interact with our application. And so you want to think about all the different ways that our users are going to interact. So first, let's create some stickies that will make up our user. Let's go use an icon here. It's person. So we have our tiny little icon here. We'll blow it up. In fact, I actually can probably steal it from user mapping. Yeah, so we'll grab these and their names. We'll come back here to our user journey mapping. I'll paste these in. All right, so we have our users laid out here. Now let's start taking them on a path. So from the view of Pamela here, our potential employer, let's think really quickly how they might have landed here. Lands on portfolio site from, let's say, our resume link. Let's say LinkedIn. Okay, and then what does Pamela do from there? So Pamela's landed on her portfolio site. They're seeing some homepage. Hi, I'm Juan. Blah, 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 blah. Sees home content and introduction. I want to say clicks on a button, but you really want to stay away in, this point of the process, stay away from saying things that are going to be specific to the solution. Maybe we don't click on something. Maybe we interact with it in some other way. So instead of click, I'm going to say navigates to skills section. Pamela can see skills and technologies that Juan has worked on in the past. I should say has worked with. She might navigate to a previous project showcase. Pamela can see more information, see more details about the project and Juan's impact contributions. Finally, Pamela feels like she's gotten a lot of great information about Juan. She wants to interact with him to get some further information. So Pamela can contact Juan. So yeah, just thinking about it in the most straightforward way possible. A couple other things that she might be able to do: navigate to the blog section to see some of Juan's writing. All right, and now let's put this into a flow. So Pamela lands on the portfolio site from LinkedIn. She sees home content and introduction. She may navigate to the skills section where she can see skills and technologies that Juan has worked with. And I actually want to separate some of these things because she can take any of these actions. Doesn't necessarily have to follow one direction. After navigating the skills section, she can see the skills and technologies. She can get more details from a previous project showcase. And then finally, she can contact me directly. And if she wanted to, she could probably contact me directly without looking at any of those things if she really wanted. So I can kind of create that little pathway. And, you know, the whole point of doing these user flows is, I think, to get a good picture of how your users can interact with the site. And here already I'm seeing, contacting Juan is kind of the main thing that we want Pamela to get to. So as I'm starting to craft the designs in the coming weeks and really starting to build this out, I can keep that in mind. Like, the ultimate goal for Pamela is to get her to contact me and to continue on in that direction, assuming that we're not already in contact. So how can I highlight that and make that very easily accessible throughout all these features? So keep that in mind. It's a great first one here. And I'm actually going to expand this a little bit, give us a little bit more room. All right, oops. And in order to do that, we'll just grab all these and we'll move them down a little bit. Now we can zoom in here. And I typically like to lock my areas so that I can highlight over them without highlighting them directly. So now I can drag this down, and then we'll move Claude down a little bit. All right. Now, thinking about it from the point of view of Juan the developer, we have a different path, because the main way that we're going to interact with this application is actually not going to be visiting my own website. I mean, maybe I'll do that at some point in the process just to see if my page uploaded, if the new blog I posted has been published and is working as expected, to test the build after going live. But primarily, I'm going to be working on this from the other side. I'm going to be writing the articles. I'm going to be building the application. What else? Well, let's just dive into it. So, Juan writes a new blog article. After writing, let's say after writing the article, what am I going to do? I'm going to save the article and push a git commit. Pipeline will automatically rebuild the web application. Getting a little specific into the technical details here, but it's kind of hard not to, so I'm going to be as generic as I can here, because maybe I don't use Git to save the blogs. Maybe I don't use a pipeline to build it in that case, but I'm going to go with this idea for now, and we can always adjust this in the future. rebuild the web application. Juan lands on home page after build is, what's the word I'm looking for? Deployed. Juan navigates to blog post. Juan verifies that the post is being viewed. Juan shares the blog post on socials. Okay, so that's writing a blog article. How else might I interact with it? Creates a new page / feature. Writes test cases and merges to master branch. I'll use main branch. Main branch. CI/CD pipeline builds the application automatically and deploys to production. Lands on new page after deployment to verify success. All right, what else might I do? Let's get some help from Claude. I'm working on user journey flows and need some help ideating on how my 3 user personas will interact with the application. Can you help me brainstorm? Brainstorm, huh? Brainstorm. The first user persona is Pamela, a potential employer. The second is Juan, the portfolio owner and software dev that wants to showcase their talent. The third user persona is Claude, a junior developer here to learn and grow as a dev. Direct link from resume application, LinkedIn profile link, search engine result, recruiter referral, so different ways she might enter. She got homepage, quick technical overview, interactive project showcase, deep dive, skill assessment, contact hiring information. So we pretty much nailed that one. Key interactions, filtering projects, examining technical decision timelines. I'm going to capture these key interactions. I think these are good to consider. All right. I love this. See, Claude is such a helper. Juan, the portfolio owner. Different entry points. Admin, dashboard, login, Git push workflow, content management interface. So right along the same things that I was thinking here. Maybe we have a dashboard. Maybe we have this Git push workflow. We would have some admin dashboard, I suppose, regardless in AWS, whatever software we're using for our cloud management. Some of the key interactions: writing documentation using templates, uploading project assets, updating skill progress. Oh, okay, some things I didn't even think about. Updating the skill progress, that's a good one. Monitoring visitor engagement. Okay, so I'm gonna add these in here. Okay, now if we're gonna create a new page feature, what else? Updating skill progress, managing content visibility, monitoring visitor engagement. Okay, so thinking about writing documentation using templates. I do like that. Uploading project assets, updating skill progress. On updates. Not skill progress, but maybe creates a new project assessment. On reviews the project, I'm just going to give my name. Review the project assessment. Publish the project assessment. Land on the project assessment page to verify successful publishing. Okay, that's about it there. And let's move Claude down a little bit more. The other one was monitoring visitor engagement. I think if we were going to do that, it'd probably be through Google Analytics. So I don't know that we need to capture a user flow because at that point, it's not part of our application. So let's turn this into a flow. What's really cool when you create these flows is you can connect the little arrows between things, and then as you move them around, the arrows will stay. So now I can kind of just move this, move this. All right. Writes a new blog article, saves the article, and push a commit. I'm going to highlight this because this is not in our application. This is actually a process. I'm going to make it gray with a border so we know that's some sort of external process. Juan lands on the home page after build is deployed, navigates to the blog post, verifies that the post is being viewed, and finally shares the blog post on socials. Okay, that's one. All right, Juan creates a new page feature writes tests and test cases and merges to the main branch. CI/CD pipeline builds. So this is gray with outline. And then you land on the new page after deployment to verify success. Bingo. Okay, let's move that up a bit. And then same thing here. Review the project assessment. Publish the project assessment. Land on a new project assessment page to verify successful publishing. So now this already has my brain thinking in a lot of directions here. So, you know, originally I wanted to be able to do everything in Markdown. And that's still a possibility. But now I'm thinking, okay, we're going to have project assessments. We're probably going to have skills. We're going to have blog posts. Maybe it makes sense to use something like Directus, which is a content management system, which we can use as like our main database. We can model all of our assets there, and then have maybe some type of CI/CD pipeline that builds every time that we publish something, and can regenerate like an SSR app, static site generation, in order to rebuild it and redeploy it. Then the site will be as fast as possible because it'll just be a static site that's deployed, but ultimately it's a React application that's interacting with this database. It's just all that happens on the server side, and then it's automatically rendered to the client. That might be a great approach to go with. I do want to add, so if I get rid of this, I'm going to add that the CI/CD pipeline builds automatically. I think that would make sense in this case. All right. I think that covers it for Juan. We got a couple different flows out of this. Let me just move these up here, get some more room. Some good key interactions. I'm gonna blow this up a little bit too. Great, making progress here. All right, and finally we have Claude, our junior developer, is here to learn. You know, just off the top of my head, I know that Claude is going to maybe searches on Google and lands on our blog post. Maybe she clicks a link from a YouTube video and clicks a link from a weekly newsletter. Okay, so there are 3 ways that she might interact with us. I can use my arrange to put those into a column, move them this way. Okay, so she's going to land on the home page of the application. Maybe. She also might land directly on the blog post. What else? I think that from the blog post, she's maybe learning something. Maybe she interacts, navigates to a download page for some free assets. That's a good one. Shares the blog on social media. Maybe she leaves a comment on the blog. See, this is great. I didn't even think about comments until I just thought of that at that moment. Navigates the site for ideas for her own portfolio. Okay, so those are some of the ideas. Now let's see what Claude had come up with. Entry points, social media share, developer community link, tutorial reference, learning resource link, all great points. Some that I didn't consider. Primary flow would be homepage to learning resources section. Might be technical tutorials, career progress timeline, code examples, development process insights. I like that. From there, interactive learning elements, and then community engagement. Key interactions, following the learning path, studying code examples, reading technical decision processes, engaging with tutorials, and saving resources for later. So I did touch on saving resources. I like this idea of learning paths, studying code examples, reading technical decision processes, and engaging with tutorials. Okay. Okay, so all different ways that we can get to kind of different locations. Okay, lands directly on the blog post. I did like some of these other ideas. Study some code examples. I did like that. Okay, might split the flow a little bit here, where she may share the blog on social media, or maybe navigates to a download page for some free assets. She could also leave comments on the blog. And move this one here. She could land on the home page and then navigate to the site for ideas for her own portfolio. Can maybe split this into different steps here. Oops. All right. So I think that captures most of it. So we have a little bit of a flow here for Claude too. Awesome. I think I like this. And now I do want to highlight here that at this point in the project kickoff, we're just trying to really get an overarching view. Okay, that's fine. We're trying to get an overarching view of how the users are interacting with the application from different angles. We're not trying to be super exhaustive here. And what I mean by that is these may change a bit. These may grow more into future flows. I think later on in the design process, as we get into our main stories, our main features and epics, we're going to dive into those. As we kick those off one by one, we're going to have a design workshop again. And so this is a part of the process. It's not just a beginning. We have all these design processes and then we just code and then we're done. It's going to be part of our design process as we go through with each iteration. As we start a new epic, we're going to have a design workshop focused just on that epic, where we can deep dive and we can start to create user flows and really think about all the steps that they'll take. And that's when we get into the real design. That's when we figure out exactly what we're going to build and really make some concrete decisions on what it is that we want to do, how we want the user to flow through, what they might actually be seeing, things like that. So this is a good holistic approach. We have a good idea of the different angles that these people will be interacting with it from, and we'll be able to, I think from here, really get a good idea of the stories and the features that we need to write. And then some key interactions. I do want to capture these really quick, just like I did for the other users. I'm just going to copy and paste this down here first. Then I'm going to get the key interactions. Oops. And I can paste those in here. Bam. Okay. And there we have it, folks. So that is our user journey mapping in its entirety. So we can see all of our user journey flows. Really happy with how this has come out. All right, and so we are about an hour and 15 into it. The next step would be story writing, story refinement, and then prioritization of our features. I think once we're done with that, then we're ready to start building, ready to start getting our hands dirty. And if you've been following along already, we're about 4.5 hours in, including the design thinking workshop, including this planning that we've done so far. I'd say we have maybe another hour left of planning and design thinking, or sorry, not design thinking, story writing, so that we can get to that backlog. But that's part of the process. You know, that's how we build things. We plan, we break it down. And my favorite quote here is measure twice, cut once. I know, especially if you're a new developer and you're still just learning how to program, it can be very enticing to just jump into your code editor and work around. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. You should definitely be playing around in your code editor, coming up with, you know, little programs, little hello worlds for sure. But if you're trying to build something, if you're trying to actually build an application, something that you could showcase to employers, something that maybe you're doing as part of a job interview, like spend some time doing the planning first, like doing the design thinking. That's part of the process. And it's like a muscle. The more that you work these muscles, these design thinking ideas, the more you stretch your brain to think in this process, the easier and the more natural it's going to come to you. And the more you're going to be able to pass this on to your other teammates, the more valuable you're going to become to your team in general when you're working on projects. Like I said before, it's totally a superpower to have a design thinking background, and it'll take you really far in your career, far past your days of coding. You might stop coding as you become a lead engineer or become engineering manager, but this part is where you can have a ton of value to any project, to any company, to any employer in the future. So really spend time understanding these processes, going through these activities that I've been sharing. I think they're super valuable. So that pretty much wraps it up. I think we're gonna call it today, and then in the next workshop, we're going to go into our story writing and story refinement. That'll be the majority of it. I'll show you how I point my stories, some of the things that I take into consideration as I'm planning that. Let me see here. What are our next steps? Once we complete that, we're going to have our backlog, and then we can really start diving into building the application. So I'm really excited to get to that point with you guys. I'm going to share as much as I can up until that point. And then once we get there as well, I'll be having even more impromptu live streams where you can just follow along with me as I build. They're not going to be super structured. All of those, a lot of those might just be me coding, me going through my design process, maybe less talking and more seeing what I'm actually doing with my hands. I don't know what to do with my hands, but really excited to get into that. If you made it this far, please do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure you click that little notification bell icon so that you get notified whenever I post and when I go live next. I think I'm going to try to come back tomorrow afternoon around the same time to finish out this workshop and go through these last steps with you, for those of you that are following along. If you haven't already, make sure to go watch parts 1 and 2 where we do the actual design thinking workshop. Super valuable to know those skills as well. I'll drop the links down below in the description. And one more thing, if you want to be up to date on all things Swanton, make sure you sign up for my newsletter. I have a link in the description as well. You can sign up for that, and I'll be sharing blog posts, upcoming release schedules, as well as some potential free resources in the future for those of you that sign up for the newsletter. So anyways, thank you all for joining. I hope you really got some help out of this. If there's anything else you'd like to see in a future stream, please let me know down in the comments. Hit that fire emoji if you got some use out of this, and let me know any design thinking activities or project kickoff activities that you use in your everyday development. Share it down below. It's a great opportunity to share with other developers and for all of us to grow together, to collaborate together, and maybe find partners for some future projects. Finally, one more little call out. If you'd like to be a part of my workshop, I sure do like working with Claude here, but I think nothing is more valuable than going through design and design thinking activities with collaborators. All the best projects I've worked on have come out of working with people and sharing like-minded individuals in one room and just seeing what we can come up with and bouncing ideas off each other. So if you'd like to be a part of one of my streams, I can help you come on as a guest and bounce some ideas off you, and we can build something great together. So if you'd like to be a part of that, just shoot me an email, juan@wontonmusic.com. I'll drop that below in the description as well. I'd love to connect, get to know you a little bit better, and maybe bring you onto the stream. So thank you all for joining. And until next time, stay curious, keep building, stay creative.